Our learning sponsors, friends of Mel Skotsky, Moshe Zelig, Ben Mordechai, Martin Libman family in memory of his wife. Malka Chana Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shimon Ben Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father. Ayahu Ben Yosef Ekoyan, those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Estamaka, Ben Mishon Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Shpuntzavad, Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vechana, Pesha Bat Shmuel, Yitzchak Alevi B'Tzipora, Yisur Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Vechana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bad Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Bronner, memory of her husband, Rav Ben Shmuel. A month of learning, Charlie Gelfenstein, memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbert Meir Halevi, Charlie Gelfenstein again, memory of his father, Meir Ben Yaakov, Ruvain and Susan Podolsky, memory of his mother, Freda Bat Shpraga Feivel. A week of learning by Marsha Federbush, in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel Ben Shlomo, friends of Bernie Krutz, on the occasion of his second bar mitzvah, and today a day of learning by myself and my wife, in memory of my mother, Ita Perbat Shlomo Zalman, also a day of learning by Aaron Tzvi and Elisa Hertzfeld, in memory of his parents, Rabbi Yaakov and Sarah Hertzfeld, on what would have been their 76th wedding anniversary. Now, Shamas have a
Okay, Rabbi, we are starting from the Mishnah on Daf Tef Zayin Amud Beis at 16b. The Mishnah says the following. The Mishnah wants to explain the difference, since they pay the same, so what's the difference between a non-Orthodox and since they both have to pay, what's the difference between non-Orthodox and Orthodox? What's the difference between the non-mourn and the mourn? That the non-mourn pays half damages, migufo, but limited by the value of its body, by its own value. And what muad, and one that's been worn, Mishan the Sikshol, has to pay full damages for goring aliyah from the best of the man's possessions. The Gemara can explain that in a minute. Now, my aliyah, what is best? What does aliyah mean? In other words, it means the best of possessions. It means the very best of his possessions. The Gemara now wants to explain to bring proof to the meaning of aliyah means from the best. That's what it says. He laid down with his father. So Chizkiyahu, the king, was a righteous king. And he was buried in the best of the graves of the house of David. What happened over there? There was a big Russia. He was in charge of the household. And he wanted to take advantage when Sancher was invading. He wanted to make a coup, to take the kingdom away from Chizkiyahu. And one of the things he did to undermine him, that's how these people work. They do all kinds of, backhanded things. So he dug himself in the place where Chizkiyahu should be buried that was fit for the king. He dug a grave for himself. He was such a rush. He was punished. He never even got buried. That's how bad the guy was. But later, when Chizkiyahu died, so they felt it's not correct, even though that was a fitting place for him. But it wasn't right to bury a tzaddik in a place of where this Russia dug the grave for himself. So instead, they buried him what? They buried him in the best place. What is that? What was that? What would be the best? No, they buried him next to the best ones in the family, okay? Because of the house of the king of David. My name, who was the very best one? David Shlomo. He's buried in close proximity to David and to Shlomo. Now, by another king, by Asa, also king of Yehuda, they buried him in the grave that he dug for himself in the city of David. And they laid him down in a laying down place. So it was full of nice smelling things. Uznin is a funny word. My besami uznin. So what's nice smelling things in znin? So first of all, we learn, like we have the translator all through our pages, so Liznohi. Zini means all different types. So there's many different types of spices. So it's nice smelling things, many types. No, zini means what? Really means from the language of licentiousness. And anybody who smells them is somehow affected that they are attracted to licentiousness. Now, furthermore, coming back to once we're on this thing, Yirmiyahu The people of Anasos wanted to, they were trying to kill Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu cursed them really. Oh my goodness, incredible curse. And he says, what he said about them was, they dug a hole, a pit, to trap me. Upachim tamnu, and they hid traps for my feet. But Lazo Omer, what does that mean? So it means we learn that the words are understood to be metaphorical. That when the language is what shechashtuhu mizona, they suspected him, and they accused him really of living with a licentious woman. No, since he was a Kohen, so they suspected him of living. Probably the first one, because since he was a Kohen, they suspected him of living with a Sona, with a licentious woman. It's forbidden to a Kohen. The other way was what that no, they suspected him of living with a married woman, which is much worse. So the Gemara says, how do we see from this language, so the language of the pasuk, that this is what's happening? So it makes sense when they thought that he lived with a licentious woman, because it says, because the language of the pit or the ditch, okay, because a licentious woman is a deep pit. So we understand how we can understand metaphorically the word to line up with a licentious woman. Okay, but according to the opinion that they suspected of living with a married woman, what's the ditch have to do with a married woman? So the Gemara says, don't worry. We learned already recently here. I wasn't here for it, but we learned recently when you learned. Oh, I listened a little bit. When you learned, I was here a little bit. When you learned Yavamos, so you saw that also a married woman who does wrong is also called a zona. When you learned Yavamos, so the same thing over here. So even though so both a zona and a married woman who does wrong are both considered to be.
So from here we learn out that you got to give the best for a Lord.
No. From there we learned that. From there we learned that. From there we were trying to explain the psukim. We're in Agadata now. So since we explained several psukim. So this has nothing to do with that. We started, the original connection was because we want to understand what the word was min aliyah. So we have psukim. Now we're in the psukim. We're explaining psukim. So by Yirmiyahu, they suspected with these one of these two things according to the opinions, and we explained how the pasuk can be, how it's justifiable to learn the language of the pasuk as a metaphor for these two accusations. Bishlam Lamanda Omar, Bishlam Omar Shekashtu Meshish. Very good. According to the opinion, it says that they suspected him of living with a married woman. I don't deceive. That's what it says. Hashem Yodata es kol atzosim alay lamos. You see, they were trying. Hashem, they're all their counsel. They wanted to kill me. Why? Because living with a married woman has a death penalty in the basis. The person has to be strangled to death. So we understand that. But when a Kohen lives with a zona, what that's what they held. What is that? There's no death penalty for a Kohen living with a zona. Okay, the answer is what? He says, no, really over there, it's really saying, here he's referring to a different point at all when he said that they were after his life, not because of the accusation, because they literally threw him into a pit of mud or pitch or whatever it was to die there. The Rabbi explained, my dictive, when these people of Anasa step that Yirmiyahu cursed, what is it to the end? After he cursed, it's like the worst curses in the world. And then he says something which is like anticlimactic. It's almost like it's almost like funny. After he cursed with the worst things, he says, they should stumble before you, and do things to them when you're angry. What was it? He was saying to him like this. We know that anger is turned away. When a person gives tzedakah properly, anger is turned away. So what's he concerned? He cursed them. Or maybe, they'll sneak out. They'll get out of it. They'll do tzedakah and they'll turn away the evil decree. Says no Hashem, but even they give tzedakah, don't help them. Why? He says, he said that in front of Hashem, Master of the universe, I feel tzedakah. Even when they do charity, which is maybe it's going to be a way to save them from the punishment they deserve, cause them to stumble by giving them people to give charity to who are not fit. They're not straight. They don't deserve the charity, and they won't get the reward for giving the charity. So they shouldn't get reward for giving the charity. Now we learned also back to Chizkiyahu. We started with. That's what we started to teach the word that you asked to teach the word of Aliyah. What's the excellent place we brought the proof from? But they did an honor to Chizkiyahu when he died. What they do? They made yeshiva nearby, close to his close to his grave, they made a yeshiva where people would learn in his merit because he brought about tremendous Torah learning in Klal Yisrael. Pligiba, so there's an argument over Nasa Rabban. And also the rabbis argued to what degree, how long did they keep that yeshiva going? People sit and learn. How long did the yeshiva go? One rabbi, one said it was 3 days. Okay, one said 7 days. Some people say 30 days, and obviously you know those correspond to three sections of the time of mourning. But it's an argument to remember that how did they know that it was yeshiva? Because we learn from other places what the Mishnah tells us. The covered is Torah. That is covered. The honor is Torah. So you want to honor a person, you do Torah. That's the way you honor anybody, is with Torah. Tanur Bana we learn. Again, we learned that they made an honor for Chizkiyahu when he died. That's Chizkiah the king of Yehuda. Apparently, in the morning, to show sign of wood, they had 36,000 men went out with their shoulders uncovered. That's what Yehuda's opinion. Nechemi said to him, 1 second. How can that be the honor? They did the same honor for a Russia. That can't be the honor for a tzaddik. Although if the Achabas came, they did that for Achab, was a Russia. Hella, but here's what. So what was the honor they did? Chizkiyahu and Melech. They put a Sefer Torah on the funeral bed. And they said, this one fulfilled what was in this. I said, 1 second. He says, that can't be the honor they did. We're nowhere near on the level of Chizkiyahu. Today we do that to honor great people who died. He says, no, no, we take out a Sefer Torah in honor of a person who died, a great person, but we don't put it on the funeral bed. We say more alternatively, no. Even in our times, the time of the Gemara, we even put the Sefer Torah on the bed. But we don't say he did, this one did, this man did, who did that man, what was written in here. He said, so I went to ask Rabbi Yochanan, what really happened here? And what was the cover? What cover do we do today with it? What do we do with we're going to say Torah for a great person? Do we? Don't we? What do we do? Put it down? Don't put it down? So he says, but when I asked him, he was on the way to the bathroom. So I asked him this thing. Okay, what do we do? He wouldn't answer me until he'd washed his hands. He put his tefillin back on a brach and he made the bracha, as we learned, because he can make the bracha tefillin from the hanacha till the shira. So he made the bracha. And then finally he said to us, he says, today he says, we even say this one did what was written in here. We don't say this one taught what was written in here, because that's greater. So what are you talking about? Then we learned that learning is not so. How can you say shouldn't you made it sound that doing. You made it sound we don't say, we don't say he taught, because that's bigger, okay? But they also said he taught it. I said, 1 second. Didn't we learn? Then we learned that learning is great because it brings to what? It brings the fulfillment. So you see that what? So you see that on the contrary, you see that what? That doing is greater than learning. So how did Rabbi Yochanan say that the covenant of Chizkiah was that they said, okay, what was it? What he said that was greater? Okay, by other people they say, other people they say they did it, and by him they say what? That he taught it. Okay, you notice the language of teaching and learning is all mixed up over here for various reasons. But the point is what? So I thought doing is greater. So how come, so we're going to say doing, he's going to say learning. But then we say doing is greater in the final analysis because learning's whole value is that leads to doing. Lokasha, don't worry. Oh, the migbar, that's what, and the language is mixed up here because of the censors. Lokasha, hala migmar, hala gmuri. Don't worry, there's a difference between learning and to teaching. The covenant of Chizkiah was what was greater than everybody because they said that he taught others. Okay, and that for sure is greater than doing. Teaching others is greater than doing.
And you teach, you learn yourself too.
That's for sure, for sure. No, the Chai Adam, who was such an incredible guy, he breaks. If you can, he wrote many introductions to his books, the Chai Adam, and they're all heartbreaking. You should read them. They make you. Those things make you. When you're young, you have time for those things. Later, you don't have so much time. But even now, you should if you have Hashem should bless your time, you should read these things because you get to know the great people. So he wrote, why is he writing these halacha books? He's a massive halacha. So he said, he gives a whole mashal, a guy was his job to keep the gardens of the king, and he didn't do it. So he thought, at least he'll show others, and maybe if he'll show others how to do it, maybe he'll get some there. And he said, listen, he hopes maybe if he'll teach people the halacha, maybe he'll get married for himself eventually. So one of the greatest guys who walked the face of the earth, and he's hoping maybe he'll have some merit. So teaching people obviously is a very great thing. You spread Hashem's Torah, and who knows, how can help a person that goes on and on and on. It's a gigantic thing. Okay, so we said the answer. We said that's the difference. So in their time, they could still say a person. It did, but to say a person taught, it was greater than saying that they fulfilled the Torah. Remember, because what we need to teach goes on and on and on. Amar Yochanan Shema Yochanan. He says, "My dechti, what's written? Ashreichem zore al kol mayim. Happy are you who we mentioned this before. Those who plant on all waters. They send out the foot of the ox and of the donkey. So this again is going to be understood metaphorically. Every person who is involved in Torah and kindness to others, we're going to see metaphorically because this pasuk is referring to the inheritance of two tribes. What are those tribes? We're going to see in a second. It's the tribe of Yosef and the tribe of Yisachar. Because we talked about, remember, the ox, the bracha, the ox it represents Yosef, and the donkey represents Yisachar. Shenemar, Ashreichem Zorei. So number one, how do we know that it's talking about learning Torah when it says planting? Ashreichem Zorei veins real tzedakah, because planting is only tzedakah by definition. Remember, as it says, Zero lechem tzedakah, but kitzu chesed. Plant for you for charity, the kitzu chesed, and reap according to the kindness. Okay, so you see that planting is charity. And mayim ala Torah, and mayim, but water by definition is Torah. Shenemar, as it said, I said, oi. Cold somebody. Let anybody who's thirsty go to water. That's always referring to Torah. Now, what do you mean he gets the inheritance of two tribes? Okay, what do you mean he gets the inheritance of two tribes? One means that's the tribe of Yosef and the tribe of Yisachar, because remember it says Mishalchei Regel Shavach Hamar, those who send out the ox and the donkey. Okay, so he's going to be so his feet themselves, his own legs, will be worthy to be sent out to the inheritance of these tribes who are called the ox, and the tribe the donkey. So by Yosef we said Bechor Shor Hadam. We mentioned at the beginning of the Masechta, he's referred to as the ox. Yisachar, it says Yisachar Chamar Garim. It says also Yisachar, he's the donkey. So therefore what? So therefore we know. Zochel is now. What does it mean? What does he get? Zochel Akilik Yosef. He's going to have a canopy, which is really honor. Canopy is a kind of glory. Like Yosef, because we learn Ben Paras Yosef. Yosef has. We're going to translate it. Really means Yosef is very good looking. All the girls went to look at him. He was so good looking, they climbed up on the wall to see him. But we're going to learn it as Paras as a canopy. Ben Paras Yosef. Yosef is really Yosef is very handsome. But the point is, we're going to read it as a canopy. But no, all the girls they all climb up on the walls to get a look at him. But the point is, what Paras is for the language of period, and it's a canopy. And how do I know? So he's going to get Yosef like the canopy, and he's going to get the wealth of Yisachar. The sea is written Yisachar Chamagorim. Okay, and if you look in the Targum of Onkelos, so he learns when he translates Yisachar Chamagorim, he's like this wild donkey, whatever it is, but he translates Atir Nichsin. He has a lot of money. That's what Onkelos translates. East the Amri. Okay, some people learn like this. That really we're talking about to get a different thing. What is the merit that you'll get? If such a person, his enemies will fall before him, like Yosef. Why? The Siba as is written, Moshe, when he blessed the tribes, he said what? That Yosef is going to have this. It came eventually by Yeshua. Okay, these are his horns. These horns, he's going to pour all the nations at one time from the ends of the earth. But that's talking about Yeshua. That he trounced all the 31 kings in Eretz Yisrael. And the other thing that he gets, so what he gets to have deep understanding, like Yisachar. The children of Yisachar who have the deep understanding about the times of Das Yosef, to know Yisrael, to know what to do. But here, what really referring to is we're talking about one, that the Yisachar, as the people had the understanding of times, they were able to know how to intercalate the years and how to make the months, etc., by which we can all know when to do the holidays. We should return to you. Now, the Mishnah, now, then we mentioned this yesterday. This next parak is going to now break down everything we learned up until now. The bottom is going to now go one by one and elaborate on the damage.
the answer to the question of why you have to give the best for a muad wasn't answered, right?
It wasn't a question. The question was, how do we know? That wasn't the question. The question was, how do we know that no, it means the question was, how do we know Mina Aliyah means the best? That was the question. The answer was, we learned it from the Pesukim. That wasn't the question.
I didn't understand the word you were saying, to tell you the truth.
You know, you could, if you ask me afterwards, I'll try to explain better.
No,
take a minute. How is the regel muad? What happens? Regel is muad to break things while it's walking. What does that mean? That's talking about the leg of the animal. It naturally damages. And you're going to see it sounds like it's extra. And also with its body, it's also considered forewarned. It's natural that it's going to damage with its body. So we see what that the regel on the way of walking, but the animal itself, not just its foot, the animal itself with its whole body, where is the halach kedarka l'shabra? It also is muad, it's forewarned to pay full damages. It's going to break things like utensils while it's walking. Okay, let's say the animal was kicking something, intending to damage it. Or let's say stones were kicked up from its legs, because those are two different cases. And in both those cases, it broke the kalim. Okay, it broke the utensil. In both of those cases, it pays half damage, but really not for the same reason. Why the first case is a case of what? Is a case of Karen, different and malicious damage. That's paying half damages because we have a rule from the Torah that Karen, when you malicious damage, pays only half damages. But the second case, as you know, we learned also, is a case of regel. When the stones kick up, that's really a halacha l'moshe mishina that we learned earlier. That's a handed down tradition that damage done by the strength of an animal rather than directly by its body when it's walking. It's really regel. It's damage done by the body, but only by its strength. It's not the direct from the body, but the body to the stone to the utensil. That pays half damages because of what? Because of the law of regel. Now, why do we if that's true, so why do we stick? We're talking about regularly. Why do we stick this in? Okay, the answer is because the answer because it wants to differentiate. It wants to show me, even though it's pedagogically, it's good to put them together to teach this point about the half damage. What happens if the animal trampled an item b'shavratu and it broke it? Look, it trampled one utensil. That utensil broke and sprung out and broke another utensil. The first one he has to pay full damages. Why? Because that's regel. That's normal walking in the private domain. Okay, the second one, why? Because then it's only by the secondary strength of the animal, and he pays half damages from the tradition of chetzi nezek of tzroros, of the stones. We're going to see from the word, we know the word, even though it says be'iro in the pasuk, which really you would think refers to like livestock or things like that, like cows. Nevertheless, it's the same thing. Birds are the same. Also, chickens it's normal for them to walk and to break things while they're walking. And they have to pay. What's a dolo? Dolo is anything that's connected to it. It's like some attachment. Anything is attached to the leg of the chicken, chicken. Or if the chicken was, so to speak, was jumping the way that they do, and it kicked up stones, and when it broke kalim, it's going to pay half damages. Like what? Like the law of the handed down tradition, half damages from half damages of stones from the law of regel of a leg. Furthermore, Ravina says to Rava, I know regel, I know behem. He says, this is what I mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah. What are you talking about? You told me the leg, and then you told me the animal. Leg and animal, it's all the same. That's all regel. When an animal does damage, it's damage. Why did you differentiate between the leg and between the animal? It's the same thing. We know that any damage that the animal normally does when it's walking, he's responsible to pay for it in the private domain, obviously. Amalei, so Rava made a joke. He said to him, he says, not a joke. Let me don't make a joke. He says, don't worry. Tana Avos, Tani told us, don't worry, you're right. But it wanted to teach the main category and the subcategory. Since the main category of regel is damage done by the foot while it's walking, so it taught first the main category, then it taught the subcategory, which is damage done by its body. So the answer is no. So we asked, why did it repeat it twice? One time is to tell the main category, The second tell the Torah. Yes.
He's questioning why a chicken has only half.
No. It's not connected to that at all. We're in the Mishnah. The Mishnah begins by saying, if you look back in the Mishnah, look at the language of the Mishnah. It says, how is the regal forewarned? To damage thing while it's walking. An animal is forewarned to break things while it's walking. So talk about the leg, and then talk about the animal. So it sounds like it's differentiated between the leg and the animal. It doesn't make any sense. So we asked what the question was. So why did you have to repeat it twice? The answer is, Rabbi says, because the Mishnah wanted to differentiate pedagogically between the leg, which is the av, the primary category, and which is what's written in the Torah, and the Tolda, which is not written in the Torah, that we derive by the midah shator de by the hermeneutical rules. So okay, so that's the answer. So now the Gemara says 1 second. He says 1 second. You're telling me that the reason why I repeated itself was to teach the general category and the particular and the subcategory. Elamiata, if that's true, Seifa, what are you going to do with the next Mishnah? It's not going to make any sense because it does the same strange thing when it comes to eating, and you're not going to be able to do it. Because we learned, Hashemu Edes. First we said what? That the tooth is forewarned to eat what's forbidden, what's normal for it. It doesn't quote the whole Mishnah. It says what the animal again repeats, like makes the tooth and the animal, just like here, the foot and the animal. The tooth is the animal is forewarned what to eat produce, etc. My officer told Nisika, we're going to say what? Those are not two different. Those are not primary categories and subcategories. Both of those things are what are main categories. Okay, of eating. So it says. So he made a joke and he said to him, he said no, because he explained this Mishnah this way. He said, well, how can it be consistent with the next Mishnah? He said to him, he says, he says, listen, I taught one, I explained one. You explained the next one, you explained the other one. So the Gemara said he made a joke. But time of mine, so the Gemara said, okay, but really, what is the reason? How do we answer that it doubled up in the next Mishnah? So Rashi said to him, on a shane de chaya, the answer is what? I'll tell you why, because it had to differentiate something else. It did teach over there, it really did teach eating twice, but for a different reason. So on a shane de chaya over there, it talked about a non-domesticated animal like deer, venison that ate. Because on the shane de behemoth, it talked about what? The eating of a domesticated animal, and it made a difference. And to tell me what? That a non-domesticated animal, it's normal for it to eat and you have to pay, and a domesticated animal, it's normal for it to eat and you have to pay. Why is that? Why do you have to teach both? So because I might have thought it might have come up in my head, I might have thought the following. Since the whole pasuk where we learn eating from, because it says he sent out his be'iro, his animal, be'ir. Okay, so be'iro, you really might think behema in. You think the language of be'ir is really what be'iro is talking about. It's talking about cattle, those kind of things, but not about venison, not about undomesticated animals. Chayalo, okay, but I think but I would think that it would not have to pay for eating. So he had to teach me both the chay b'chlal behemoth. I had to teach him what, but also a non-domesticated animal is included when we said behema in the pasuk that said be'iro. Okay, and that's written in the Torah. It's also included. Now, what's the problem? What's the chiddush here? I thought that the non-domesticated was out, and the chiddush is that the non-domesticated is in. Well, 1 second, iachi hami violated Mr. Rasha. So that you should have taught it. You should have taught it first. In other words, okay, because that's what's in the Torah. You should have said what? You should have taught me first. You taught me over there that the way you explain the next mission is that the undomesticated animal has to pay and the domesticated animal has to pay. But you just told me, well, what's written in the Torah? The domesticated animal. So what's the given? The domesticated animal. What's the novel point? The non-domesticated animal. So why did the next Mishnah learn first the non-domesticated animal and learn the domesticated animal? Since the novel point was the non-domesticated, first taught me what's in the Torah, domesticated, and non-domesticated. The way you learned it, first tells me non-domesticated and then domesticated. And the answer is, that's a great point. Where it says, this is classic, and it's we say it all over the Talmud that what came out of the drasha chabibule is more precious. And what had to be derived by the hermeneutical rules is so pleasing and so important to the teacher that they put it first. Okay, that they put it first, even though in a certain respect pedagogically it would have been better the opposite way, but they still do it. When it says 1 second, so if that's true, that you always take the more novel thing first, So Reisha Nami, then also in our Mishnah, you should have done that way. This Nehida Luksiva Reisha. So how come what they should also have taught the one that wasn't written in the Torah? You should have taught first the what what remember an Av is written in the Torah, damage by the leg, and the subcategory is what's not written but is legally identical, the damage with the body. So then why did you write what? Why did you do? How come Bayasa did the other way? You wrote first what? The leg, what written in the Torah, and then the body, which wasn't. Since the body is the more novel, you should, according to if that's the format of these Mishnayos, so also you should have put what? You should have put the novel one first. You should have put the body first. Where it says no, Hachi Hashta. There's no comparison. There's no comparison between the two Mishnayos. Hasam, when it came over there, when it came to the question of eating the others thing, both of them are avos, and therefore what? So when they're both avos, then it's better, since they're both as far as written in the Torah, not written in the Torah, they're both written in the Torah. So the only thing is which should come first, and then teach the novel one first. Over there, you take the one that comes from the derivation, you put first. Why? Because otherwise they're on equal footing. You understand? That makes sense. But over here, that is untenable. To abandon what's written explicitly for what's not written explicitly, that you can't do. You understand? That you cannot do. And therefore, each Mishnah has its own order of preference. Or alternatively, you don't like it, I can have an alternative, and that is I did the Salik Mirego Pasuk Mirego. Since in the last in the Mishnah at the end of the previous chapter, the Tana spoke about the literal leg. So continuity demands that I open up with the leg first. You're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe I really should have put the body first because it's more novel. But, and I won't say that you necessarily have to go with what's written first, but it wanted to continue at that continuity from the previous Mishnahs. Tana Rabbana, we learned the following. Okay, a brisa. There's a brisa now, not a Mishnah, but it brings out a great amount. So the brisa teaches the following. Tana Rabbana, we learned in a brisa. An animal is forewarned to walk normally and to break things while it's walking. That's the whole thing. How so? What's an example? An animal goes into the domain of the damagee, because remember we said that these damages are only in the domain of the damagee. It did damage with its body while way of walking. Here, it pushes the utensils and breaks them. Or the utensils or its hair, the utensils get tangled up in the hair and they break. And the Brisa answers what? And not only, and now we're going to add not only the body, but everything connected to the body is still considered the body. And we're going to see. Hukaf shalah, for example, like some people translate, whatever you put on the animal to ride it, okay? The saddle that's on it, maybe, the restraint pardon me, a bag holding a merchandise that's on it, yeah, or the restraint that's in the mouth of the animal, or the belt on its neck, okay, or a donkey carrying its load. All these things, so it's the body, the hair, even the things connected to the body, all of that is considered what? All these places, it's all considered the damage of walking, of the regal, and you pay full damages. Now, this is something we haven't learned before. Up until now, we took it for granted that it would seem like everyone agrees that we have a halacha l'mosh b'sinai, handed down tradition, that the stones that are kicked up by the animal, which are the strength of the animal, not the animal itself, are all halacha l'mosh b'sinai, are from regal, and it's really a monetary payment, but you only pay half damages. All of a sudden, we come to a new opinion we didn't hear before. So Chasomer Silva says no. Sroros, he says, number one, stones that are kicked up, and where pig was rooting, okay, with its nose, ba'ashba and the garbage, the hizik and the damage, we'll explain in a minute. In both these cases, he pays full damages. Sumuchos disagrees and says that Sroros, what the rabbis say, pays half damages. He says pays full damages. Now, there's a tremendous problem here. The Rambam tells us that there's no machlokas in halacha l'mosh b'sinai. Halacha l'mosh b'sinai are handed down traditions. Everybody has them. There's no argument. So how we explain over here? We see clearly what? What do we see? We see there's machlokas, but halacha l'mosh b'sinai. What's going on? The answer is, we can answer. We answer like this: that there's no machlokas that we have a handed down tradition about the law of stones to the kicked. What the machlokas is? Did the Torah come to tell me what to pay half damages? Or the Torah tell me, or the Torah tell me I have damages, or the Torah tell me no, I pay full damages. Which is it? You understand? To tell me that I have to pay because of the strength of the animal or not. So therefore, we can have a machlokes about what the halacha Moshe Sinai said, but not whether there was one. Yes.
Doesn't simply say it's secondary, where he sends it out and it hits something and like dominoes?
Which sumchas are you quoting?
Well, that's what Sumchas is. Why? How he
deals? No, Sumchas says the halacha Moshe Sinai is that you have to pay full damage. He disagrees. He disagrees. Let's take a look. You're going to see in a second. He holds in the very case where the rabbi said that the koach of the animal, that the halacha Moshe Sinai is half damages. He says that the halacha is full damages. Let's take a look. Shita, the Gemara says 1 second. He says he says he's a question. You told me what? When we first read the brisa, it sounds like not like I said. It sounds like that the animal, that the pig by rooting damages with its snout. You understand? So he said, hey, so if it did damage, Shita, it's obvious that he pays full damages. Why? Because what Sumcha is telling me. Why? Because that's regular. Just in its normal course of living, it hurt something. It's not doing it maliciously. You have to say what? Hates vehizik. You have to say that the case is just like the first case. Whether it threw up stone, whether the animal threw up stones, or whether the pig with its nose threw up something that hit something else and did the damage. In both those cases, Sumchas holds what? That you pay full damages. Why? Because he holds that damage done in the case of Troros kicked up by the animal, by the strength of the animal, that the halacha Moshe Sinai is the opposite. Not that you pay half damages, but that you pay full damages.
What's Troros again?
Troros is stones. Stones. Troros, okay. Troros, Manda Hashmaya. We have a problem though. How could you interpret the end of this price as talking about the stone? Who was talking about? It's a non sequitur. Nobody was talking about it. All of a sudden, we're talking about stones. What have to do with anything over here? How to get up here? How do we get up here? The answer is all of a sudden, Shmuel is talking. He's talking on the wrong telephone. Bryce is not talking about it. All of a sudden, he's talking about stones. He's at the lunch. The answer is what? So he says, Shmuel, Madachashmai. Who mentioned it? What's he talking about? The answer is again, like we say, we have traditions. The one that the Tana leaves parts out. They left the part out. This is how the Bryce really went. It's Throros, Kirchayu. The Bryce actually taught us that stones, okay, that the animal kicked up in its normal way, okay, while it's walking, Hatzinezik, they pay half damages, like we learned and because of the handed down tradition of half damages. The Chazish, another Rashba, and also a pig that was rooting in the garbage, and it says, and it kicked something up, like we said, and it did damage. You pay half damages because of the half damages of stones. Sumcha says no. It's Roros, the classical case of kicking up stones. And also a pig that was rooting in the garbage and it kicked something up and it did damage. He says you pay full damages. Okay, now we want to learn another argument of Sumchas and the rabbis by Tzroros. Tanarabana, we learned. Tani Golin Shaimafrichen, if the chickens were flying from place to place. Okay, from place to place. They broke utensils while they're flying. Okay, they pay full damage. Why? Because even though the pasuk was talking about an animal, we know that chickens are, there's no difference. Chickens are included in the halacha. But let's say while they were flying, they made a wind with their wings, and the wind damaged other things. For that you pay half damage. Why? Because that's under the law of kicking up stones. It's only the strength, the koach, the secondary force. Sumcha says no. In those cases, still Nezik Shalom, you pay full damages because he holds that the law of Tzoros is that you pay full and not half. Tani Yidich, we learned in a different brisa the other way. We learned a different brisa. Tani Golin Shai Mahadisin. If the chickens were like dancing, jump up and down. Al Gabi Isa, they're hopping on a dough, the al gabi paris or produce, the tinfu, and they made it dirty. O nikru, or if they pecked it, with their beak, mashalim nezik shalom, they pay full damages, okay? But if they didn't do it with their body, hello, offer a tzoros, but let's say no. What happened was they stirred up dirt, dust, or stones, okay, and those things did damage. Mashalim chatzinetza, they pay half damages. And again, we say what? Sumcha Somer, again, Sumcha says no. Nezik Shalom, he believes in those cases we pay full damages. Tani Yidich, we learned in another brisa. Tani Golshay Machriach Meimakom Lemakom. If a chicken was flying from place to place, and a wind came out from under its wings, and it broke utensils, you have damages, like we said. And we see there's no argument. Stomach or Rabbanan, we see clearly what a Brisa that taught without any argument, like the rabbis, and therefore it doesn't bring Sumcha's opinion. So you see what it's really coming at first glance is coming to give a ruling like the rabbis against Sumchas. Amar Rava, Bishlam Sumchas. So Rava says, you know what Sumcha says I can kind of understand. He holds that the strength of that what comes, what's the power that's produced by the animal is like its own body, which makes a lot of sense. We say by human beings we say that, and he pays full damages. Al Rabbana, it's a little hard to understand the tradition according to the rabbis that you pay half damages. Make up your mind: is the strength of an animal like the animal, or is it not? Because black or white, it doesn't make sense to pay half. If the strength of the animal is like its own body, then you should really be paying full damages when it kicks up stones. We love kugu for dummy. And if the strength of an animal is not like its body, it also shouldn't pay even half damages. Even black or white, it shouldn't go to half. It should either pay all or pay nothing. How do we understand the tradition according to Sumchas, according to the rabbis? Pardon me. The Merabas, he came back and he said, you know what? He says, I can explain it. You know what it is? The olam kagufadam. The real truth is that the tradition, that according to the rabbis, really hold that the strength of the animal is like its own body, just like a human. The chatzinezik tzoros, and like we said, that the half damages of tzoros is hilchos gemiri law. It's a handed down tradition from Sinai. We said, and for whatever reason, Hashem saw fit not to obligate the person 100%, but only half. And then we said, what? Now this is
pay nothing when it damages.
Say again.
When does an animal pay nothing when it damages?
When did I just say that animal pays nothing when it damages? No, I didn't say that.
It always.
We didn't say that. Okay. We didn't say that. I mean, I could think of a case, but we didn't say something. Amar Rava. Rava said, "Kol shebezav tamei." Rava makes an interesting point. The azav is a person who has an emission that's not semen. It's more water. It's the whole story of the person. It's a certain place that makes him tamei, and he makes other people tamei. He makes other people tummy. So there are two ways that he can make people tummy by touching them. But interestingly enough, if he's on a wagon and the wagon goes over utensils, they also become unclean because of something of him putting his weight down on something. He also become unclean. Interesting. So the zav makes things tummy by touching them, or even the things that are when something's connected to his body and it touches those things, it goes on those things. It also makes him tummy. So he says, "Kol shebezav tummy." Anything with any way that the zav can make other things tummy, like I just told you, Mishalim Nezik Shalim. But in Zakin part, when it comes to damages, when the animal does it, it pays full damages. That's considered its body. The kol shebezav tar. But in any case, for example, if the zav would do it, for example, let's say he threw something at somebody, and let's say he threw a banana at a guy, or he threw a ball at a guy and hit the guy. It doesn't make the other guy tummy. He touches the guy, but he throws the ball at him, it doesn't make him tummy. But the zakin, in such a case, he only pays half damages. So when the zav throws a ball at a guy, so to speak, or kicks up a ball at a guy, it doesn't make the guy tummy. So by the animal, it's going to pay half damages. Very nice. That's a tremendous conceit that he figured out. He says, what's he coming to tell me? The law, they only pay half damages for kicking up stones? He says that's something everybody knows. We learned at the Mishnah of Raisa. So we don't need Rava in his late time in history to come and tell me such a thing. He says, "Lo." He says, "No, that's not what he's coming to tell me." Okay, Rava Agala B'Shech B'Kmark Mashman. Here's the case, like I mentioned to you before. You want egla probably talking about what? Let's say a young cow, but it's any animal that is pulling a wagon. What is that with? Let's say, for example, an animal's pulling a wagon. And while it's pulling the wagon goes over utensils and breaks them. Okay, so we don't consider that to be the strength of the animal to pay half damages. That's considered it was broken from the animal, it's from the body of the animal itself, because it's connected, like it's dragged by it. And just like if the zav, like I told you, was sitting on a wagon and it went over the utensils would become tummy. So also here, when the animal pulls the wagon and the wagon breaks the utensils, he pays full damages. Tani Kabasi the Rav, we actually learned an explicit price like Rava. We said, how do we mean that an animal is forewarned, has to pay full damages for breaking while walking? When the animal goes into the courtyard of the damagee, and it did damage with its body while it's walking, basar dechilucha, and when it's hair while it's walking, ukov shaleha, like we said, it's something anything, but with the saddle that's upon it, or shalev shaleha with the bag on it, or kum yishva pio with the restraint in its mouth, and the bell on its neck. Okay, the chamor b'maso, or or a donkey with its burden, whatever it's carrying, the egla of a shechel b'karn, or this animal, the calf is pulling a wagon, a shalom nezik shal, in all the places pay full damage. So you see exactly the chiddush of Rava in a brisa. But remember, not everybody had every brisa. Tana Rabbana, we learned Tanagon Shayim Mechatatim. We learned in a brisa. Let's say there were chickens were pecking, pecking with their beaks. Oh no, that's for tomorrow. Thank you, Rabbosai. Have a wonderful day.
Can we go back to coming out of the bathroom?
Oh, he asked when he was on the way to the bathroom.
Yes, but here when he came out of the bathroom, the Gemara says he put on tefillin and he made a bracha.
Yes, I mentioned that we say that bracha is from the hanacha to the kshira.
I understand.
Yeah.
The problem is, Rashi says he said birchas hatayra. Others say and others say he said birchas tefillin. Nobody, at least that I could find, said he said Asher Yatzar. And
so, what do you think? Do you think maybe they thought it was obvious?
No, maybe that's but the point is, we do not say bracha and tefillin when we take them off to go to the bathroom, put them back on, and we do not say birchas hatayra after you come out of the bathroom.
You know what?
What forces them?
You know what?